Republicans passed Trump's budget last week, and it is historically bad. Medicaid cuts alone will send nearly 12 million people off their health care over the next decade. Our kids and grandkids are going to be saddled with the crushing debt caused by even more tax cuts for billionaires. The budget is bad, and even Republicans knew it was bad.
They chose to wait to the last minute.
And why is that? What's the reason for that?
You'll have to ask them. It was a pretty stupid exercise, frankly.
When you work hard to get an agreement and the committees pass stuff out and then people come in and want to undo them, it makes us mad. You got an angry group of folks out there.
Can you support it?
No, we've got lots of work to go. Mm-hmm. Lots of miles to put in on this thing.
Should they have this 1 a.m. meeting on Wednesday?
No. They're trying to run it in through the JEP teams, and I just don't agree with that.
Folks, every single Republican in that clip ended up voting yes on Trump's mega bill to gut the social safety net and skyrocket the national debt. Every single one. This is a party so completely submissive to Donald Trump that only 2 House members and 3 senators had the backbone to vote no on this atrocious budget. And Tom Tillis announced he wasn't running for re-election almost as soon as he voted down on the budget. Today's episode is all about the pathetic, shameful, hypocritical Republicans in Congress, folks. But first, please take a moment and hit that subscribe button and drop a line in the comments. And thank you to each and every single one of you that got us to 8,000 subscribers in just a month. Now, Congressman Ralph Norman exemplifies the simplicity of the spinelessness that is today's Republican Party. Check it out.
Our next guest is Republican House member who opposed President Trump's big bill as of late yesterday, but overnight he voted to move forward with the bill. Joining us right now is Congressman Ralph Norman, Republican of South Carolina. You were outspoken on the other side of this bill, sir, and here we are this morning. What has changed?
Well, we had a lot of problems with the Senate changing our bill up, mainly adding to the deficit to the tune of, with interest, right at $1.2 trillion. We were unhappy with a lot of the subsidies that weren't phased out, but the Senate put back in. We were unhappy with the Senate allowing illegal aliens to draw a paycheck from Medicaid. It just didn't add up from the bill that we sent, a 26% increase.
What I don't understand is you had a view that was negative about this bill yesterday. Is there something different about the bill today?
Yeah, it is. We met with President.
Of course, Andy Harris voted yes on the budget with no changes just a day later. And we can't forget Texas tough guy Chip Roy. Remember this guy?
My colleagues in the Senate failed us. My colleagues in the Senate failed us. They sent us a bill knowingly, using a policy baseline gimmick. They sent it knowingly. And they sent it knowing that it was going to have increased deficits.
No way that goatee would cave, right? And Chip Roy was relentless. Check out this clip of him on some random right-wing podcast.
All this stuff is pretty simple. This bill, in my opinion, will raise the deficits in order to get some tax cuts that we want, some tax cuts that we don't necessarily need, some reforms that are good, but some reforms that we're leaving on the table. That's the bill. You say, well, is that a compromise? In my opinion, right now, it's not a compromise worth taking because the deficits are too high and we can't afford that anymore.
Folks, Chip Roy, wait for it, voted yes on the budget. And of course, this dumb shit voted for the budget. It may be a fucking circus in Congress, but Andy Ogles still manages to stand out as a clown. This is a guy who was, until Trump got elected, under FBI investigation for fraudulently loaning $300,000 to his campaign, an investigation that was dropped after Ogles filed a bill to allow Trump to run for a third time. Folks, this is the clown who also introduced legislation to put Donald Trump on Mount Rushmore, if you remember that. Just watch Major Garrett make this asshat squirm. This is edited so you don't have to see this guy talk any more than necessary.
You said it would be okay to ping pong this back and forth with the Senate. The legislative process allows for that. That's right. Why not go through that to make sure that this is a legislative product as opposed to a legislative product with all sorts of maybe add-ons from the administration or maybe not?
Well, so when you look at the process, so I carried the amendment. which was amendment number 4, the first Republican. I carried the amendment that would revert it back to House Bill 1. Working with the Speaker, working with the President. I was with the President at the White House for a couple of hours yesterday.
It has been said this morning by some who analyze the work of this Congress that in the end, whether it's the right flank or the moderate flank, all flanks cave ultimately to President Trump.
Well, the left-wing media tends to report, bad news.
Of course, Andy Ogles voted for the Trump budget. We knew these mindless MAGA drones in the House would ultimately cave to whatever Donald Trump demanded. But U.S. senators are supposed to have a little bit more independence and backbone, right? Wrong. We all know by now that 535 members of the House and Senate, Lisa Murkowski was the only vote that sent this budget to Trump's desk. She was it. And she fucked over the whole country in the process. So let me remind you of that time just a few days ago when she said she wouldn't. Check it out.
Senator, you're one of the key votes. The Republican Party needs you to pass this big bill. What's an absolute no for you?
I have not given anybody in the administration an absolute, this is my red line, right? Because I think it's important that every step of the way I communicate where my concerns are. So I've been pretty clear that when it comes to Medicaid, those cuts that would harm Alaskan beneficiaries, that's not something that I can take home, right? We have some of the highest healthcare costs in the country. We have 40% of Alaska's kids that are on Medicaid. I want to try to do what we can to address certain aspects of our entitlement spending. We've got to do that. But doing it with the most vulnerable bearing the brunt of that is not the answer.
Again, none of these bozos in the House surprised me one bit, but Lisa Murkowski had the opportunity to do what John McCain did. In one of his last and most consequential votes in a decades-long career in the Senate, she had the opportunity to put her thumb down and in the process let tens of millions of people keep their health care. But she didn't, and she fucked us. Murkowski was on a podcast last week hinting she might be open to switching parties if Democrats take back some seats next year. I have a message for Lisa Murkowski. We don't want you. Which is the thought that always pops to my mind when I think about the senator in this last clip.
We can't be cutting health care for working people and for poor people in order to constantly give special tax treatment to corporations and other entities. And we've delayed that in this bill. But it will, unless we take further changes or take further steps, it will happen in future years. And I'm opposed to this. If we're going to be a working class party, we've got to protect working people. And the Medicaid stuff in here, I think is bad. And I think we've delayed the worst of it. And in the short term, for my state, it's going to be fine. But on a going forward basis, we cannot go on like this. I think the party has a lot of thinking to do.
Folks, I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. Fuck Josh Hawley. That's our show for today. I would like to end with we are thinking of our friends, family, and neighbors throughout Texas and this country who are in the middle of an absolute nightmare with the recent storm and flooding. If you pray for them. I'll see you soon.